Ladies and gentlemen, we are back! Back for another episode of the Draxx Life podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show. So guys, I'm glad you're back. I know we haven't really, this is the third or fourth one we've recorded, but they haven't come out yet. So if this is the first one that comes out for y'all, just be aware there's at least 3 or 4 in the chamber, as Bobby A would say. Mm-hmm. But for today's episode, I was pondering this one thing, this one question, and I wanted to throw it at you guys and just get your opinion. So a lot of crazy stuff is happening in the world, right? We got what's going on with Russia, Russia and the Ukraine. We have Will Smith's fuckery the other day at the Oscars, and it just made me think about this one thing. So here's the question, right? If you were walking down the streets of New York one day and you see in a trash can, I want to paint you a picture. You see this glittering object, and you're a little interested. I know, Joe, you're like maybe on your phone or you have your camera, you're looking to take a nice picture, and you just see this thing. It catches your eye, on 14th Street, right out the Apple store, and you see this lamp, and you're like, what the hell is this beautiful brass lamp doing in this trash can? So you look around, there's no one looking. You say, okay, I'm gonna reach in and grab it. So you grab it. It's a little dull, there's a little tarnish, so you take a napkin from your pocket and you begin to polish this lamp, and then all of a sudden a magical creature emerges from the lamp, and you are face to face with Robin Williams from Disney's Aladdin. Now, rather than asking you to give you 3 wishes, he says to you, I can give you fame beyond your wildest dreams. I can give you a fortune, wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Or I can give you anonymous power the likes that you've never seen before, but no one will ever know your name. Whatever you do with said power will go unwritten in any history book. The only person that will know of your deeds is you. So I wanted to throw this at you. You've been given this gift, this option. What would you choose? And I wanted to talk about what are the pros and cons of all of these options, and like, how do you see your life changing or manifesting based on the choice you make? And the choices are, again, wealth, fortune beyond your wildest dreams, fame beyond your wildest dreams. You are bigger than Brad Pitt, bigger than Beyonce. You are known and loved by all humans all over the world, or the power of a God on earth, but no one will know your name. You'll walk the streets of New York and people will bump into you as if you were nothing. All right. That is the question. That is the existential crisis of this episode today. And now I'm just going to throw it at you, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Take it in whatever direction you want. All right? Who wants to go?
All right. I'll start. First of all, who's singing Prince Ali if we're doing if the genie's coming out? That's actually
Prince
a
Ali,
That's a sick track, actually, by the way.
Aladdin was my favorite Disney movie. I think even today it would still be my favorite. So
yeah, I think the same for me too.
It was top notch. I do have a story. I saw Aladdin for the first time. I'm going to go on a tangent immediately, of course.
Do it.
It's I saw it in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, at a movie theater. That's where I saw Aladdin for the first time. It wasn't even, well, I mean, Puerto Rico's still a Commonwealth, so you could say U.S., but I always remember that day. It was one of my earliest memories that was vivid for me. So, but moving on to the actual question. First of all, it's good to be back in the nest. I feel comforted. I feel at home. The Crow has bestowed upon us this platform to voice our irreverent opinions. And so here we go. So I think for me, just to kick it off, is 3 hard choices, right? Because wealth and fortune, you're set for life. It's basically what you're saying. And you could do whatever you want. You can go buy as much property as you want. You can do any activity you want. You can travel to any place you want. That's very appealing.
Yeah, and I mean
Yeah.
the wealth of like Elon Musk wealth, like 6,
Yeah.
7, 15, 20 more money than you could ever spend in 10 lifetimes.
Yeah. And so that is very appealing because then you can start your own. I could go to fucking space if I wanted to. William Shatner was just in space because of Jeff Bezos. I did. If you're telling me I can build my own spaceship and go to space, that's very. I mean, how can you turn that down? That's incredible. Fame, I'm not too keen on because, as the three of us have talked about in the past, with great fame comes great scrutiny and no privacy. You have no privacy at all. Are you gonna tell? You thought I was gonna drop the Batman line,
No,
weren't
no.
you?
I just think that
with
have
great
a little
with
twist
great power
on
comes
Uncle
great.
Ben. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
yeah, that's
nuts.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, who like obviously the adulation and the glory of being famous sounds cool, but the lack just the if just the disappearance and lack of privacy,
Yep.
I personally am not down with. So for me, I might go wisdom slash anonymous power where I'm in the shadows. And that might sound a little ominous, but I think I would have to pick that. It's for me, it's between that and wealth, but I would go with how cool would it be to basically know everything that's happening in the world, and you have knowledge from start to finish. You know about any kind of science, you know about any kind of religion, you know all of history. You can name historical facts, and then you get maybe more of the fun things like pop culture. You can name the actors in a movie from 1955 and stuff like that. I think that for me, basically, you want to be the best bar trivia player in the world. And I think I might go that, but wealth is hard to turn down. So I'm going to save my full answer to the end, but I'm leaning toward the anonymous, like, shadow power.
Oh, and I forgot because I'm looking at my
Yeah.
notes again. Yes, and you already kind of because I talked to
Yeah.
you about this. Wisdom was
Yeah.
really the fourth option, right? Wisdom to know all things, to be that wise beyond measure, but to have really nothing else but that knowledge and that wisdom. So
Mhm.
that's on the table as well. Joey, what do you got?
So just listening to Rob go over all those aspects, I feel the same exact way about fame. Just not having anonymity to me is it's just that's a non-starter. I would never be able to do that.
All right. So
But
what do you think about wealth then?
wealth, see, when you were talking, I was thinking, okay, anonymous power before you're talking, power sounds appealing to me, but then just thinking about it, why have that kind of power if it's going to be anonymous? Wouldn't I would want to take the credit if I'm going to change aspects of society. I I wouldn't want to go down just not being known as someone who changed the world as we know it. So and normally I'm not the one that tends to focus on things like wealth, but I'm probably leaning on wealth right now. And even with wisdom being thrown in that whole realm of the four wishes that were given, I just think if the parameters are what they are right now, then I would go with wealth. It's just not having to think about, oh, I want this or I have to wait for that. It's just it seems more appealing to me than any of the other three aspects that we just talked about, or really more Rob just talked about.
Okay, so you both and Bobby A did a good job, kind of just laying the groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at these things because we got time to chat. Um, let's look at like if you have these three options, right? This genie that looks like Robin Williams back from the grave with no legs, just hovering.
He's all blue.
all
Yeah.
blue,
Yeah.
all blue.
Yeah.
Think about that. They would not be able to make that anymore, right? A white guy playing a blue guy that's probably
Oh,
supposed to be a brown guy.
yeah.
Um,
It's true.
Yeah,
so think about
they
this,
tried
right?
it.
So they that's correct. They did. Speaking of Will
I
Smith,
will have to admit, I tried to watch that movie, and as soon as they started singing, I turned it off. I couldn't deal with it.
never saw it, never will. There's already one good Aladdin. I don't need
Yeah.
to. They don't need to
It
reinvent the wheel when you have
Ah,
Robin Williams just ad libbing like almost all of his scenes and just like giving them gold on command like every day.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Um,
But you
but
could
yeah,
take
so let
good.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
you could take solace in the fact that it was absolutely awful and just universally panned. So you don't just forget that that movie ever came out. It's best for all of us. But go ahead.
But I was gonna say, all right, we have, so you have these three things, and like, let's say at the end we decide which one we want to pick. What are the pros and the cons of each? Like,
Mm.
what if you have like, what is there a con to wisdom? Like, let's imagine, like, all right, I've given you like you know everything, but you have no power, you have no name, you have no reputation, you've just been bestowed massive amounts of wisdom. Like right this second, Rob in Ridgewood, I bestow upon you the wisdom of all ages. Joey in Brooklyn, I give you knowledge beyond measure. It's like, all right, so you have this, like, all right, what's the next step? Or, okay, wealth. Like, if I give you all this money, what are like like, oh, it's definitely gonna be amazing. Anything you would want to do for better or worse, you could do. Everything, all doors open up to you. But there's obviously a negative because we see people acting a fool, and we see the negatives of immense wealth and fortune, just like we see the negative to immense power. So like, what about some of those things? Like, let's talk about like the before we make our decision, what are the pros and cons of each, and like, can we pick examples that we see in like in our lifetime or in times long ago? Like, I'll give you one right now, like Nero, right? You hear stories of these ancient Romans, power beyond measure, the power of life and death over countless people, and how I'm thinking of him, and I'm thinking of who's the other Roman emperor who was known for his debauchery. Rob, you know this answer. What is his name? Not Nero. It was Caligula. Like they went insane.
Caligula. Yeah.
They became like megalomaniacs. Their debauchery turned to like extreme forms of perversion, as at least as history has carried their name and their reputation to us. So like, yeah, like what are the cons, let's say, of all of these, each of these? Because I think historically these are all things that people have strived for at different times in history.
All right. So let's start with wealth and let's go with the cons on wealth. The cons on wealth are just I mean, I don't think I can name enough cons about being too wealthy. Number one, it's you give into a lot of temptations. So for me, like from my perspective, that would be one of the main things. Number two is you're sort of out of touch with what's actually going on with the rest of the world because you live in a different stratosphere, in a different bubble where any type of, even from a small issue to a large problem, you could just throw money at it and solve it. So there's no real suffering or struggle, which tends to forge character. So you're gonna lack that, especially as you said, Chris, in the beginning. If you have it from the beginning, it's gonna change. It's gonna like mold who you are. If you've always and will always be rich, that's gonna have a large effect on the personality and character you have. Um, so we got temptation, we got uh, lack of understanding of the outside world. You basically live in your own mind, and uh, another con is the last one I'll say, and then I'll toss it to someone else. Is if I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. From what I see, the more money you have, the more money you want. So it leads to greed, and it leads to questionable decision making, and it leads to taking advantage of other people, where you're already rich, but you want it's almost it's just it's not almost, it is like an addiction. The more you have it, the more you want it, and the more you need it. Is probably the best way to say it. So it leads to greed and gluttony and all the things that we saw Brad Pitt do in the movie Seven, and so and it leads to a lot of like bad. Basically, what did they say? Well, I'll leave that for wisdom because there's another line, but um, wealth could be a tremendous thing if you're already a very grounded, caring, caretaker, selfless individual. But if you already have tendencies to be corrupt, and you or tinges of, I wouldn't say evil, but you have, there's flaws in your character, it's going to only accentuate that. The richer you are, the more powerful you think you are, and you may do things, and it may allow you to do things that are not going to be for the beneficial of anyone else. So it's a tricky thing, and you give into a lot of temptation. There's a lot of vices. You can satisfy any vice you want, and that's a dangerous scenario for me, at least. So that's what I would say. Those are the bad cons.
What do you think, Joe?
I Rob stole my greed one. I was gonna definitely go with that as the main con, and it just had me thinking like the saying like power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It just easily just comes to my mind when it comes to wealth. Uh, Temptation is something I did not think about, and that's actually a great point. Um, Especially with money, and like if anything is at your beckoning, I feel like you would more likely you're gonna more likely just do whatever comes to your mind and not have much consequences when it comes to that because money is not an object. So you're just willing to do whatever. And the further down you go that rabbit hole, the worse things can be. So temptation is, damn it, I did not think about that initially, but that's definitely something about wealth that it's a is one of the main things that would happen to anyone that becomes instantly wealthy, as opposed to someone who like grows into it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Damn,
Yeah.
I
I
agree.
when it comes to greed, like someone that instantly comes to my mind is like someone like J.P. Morgan. Like just like Rob said, once you have that taste of wealth, you want to turn it into something else. You want to turn it into power, and you want more wealth, just to show. And a lot of times, just to show off that wealth. And I don't know if that's the kind of life I would want to live. Just it's kind of like a empty kind of life.
Yeah. You know, it is kind of interesting, like, because I'm thinking about this and I'm like, wishing I had reformulated the question perhaps, because,
Well, you
well,
could do that now.
well, I'm thinking like wealth and fame, because they all kind of go together to some degree. I think fame is an interesting one in how, like, there's a lot of wealthy people out in the world right now. I mean, there's billionaires you might bump into and no one would ever know who they are. And they no one might even be impressed by them, like unless you knew that deep down their bank account. But they are anonymous in a sense. Like they're like, you guys live in New York. You've probably it's very possible that you've bumped into a billionaire. It's even possible you might have talked to one. I don't know. I know, knowing Rob and some of the circles he has fluttered through, like it's
Oh yeah.
possible.
I would say it's more likely like a millionaire or multimillionaire. That I
Okay.
think that's definitely more likely.
Okay, fair enough. But like people who have not endless funds, but from our perspective, close to it. I think the fame is an interesting one because like for example, take what you're talking about when it's temptations. If you're like an ugly, grimy, I'm just trying to think of like paint a picture of a person who you might be like the woman, for example, would find unattractive, like inherently unattractive. There are some women that would, if they found out he was a billionaire, there's many women that would become accessible, whereas before they weren't. But there's probably a line where you're like, like you're still at a visceral level. I guess what I'm saying is like you could pay for things, but I don't know how many people would throw themselves at you. Whereas fame is like a weird thing because there are wealthier people in the world, but they don't have the degree of access that some of these famous people have. Like fame is in itself its own thing that just kind of like I find so strange and peculiar.
So
People like throw themselves at famous people, and it's because of the intimacy of like I know them, I'm connected to them. They have a light upon them of which I want a piece of. I want to get closer to. I want to touch, and they might not even be like extremely affluent, maybe more affluent than you or I, but like not the type of Jeff Bezos money. You know what I'm saying? I would imagine if you're famous, temptation becomes even more a thing. Like, it's like who is the one comedian? I think it was Bill Burr talking about what's the golfer? The Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
And how like I don't know if he's joking or if he's serious, but how like he'd get done at these matches and there would be like Swedish supermodels like literally throwing themselves at him. Like it pretty much open door policy. Like if you say yes, they will be there for you. And like that to me would be a fast track to losing your soul because for most people, myself included, there are limiting factors on our animal side and they are like very basic things. You can't afford something, you don't have the power to get it, you can't attract it, whatever. Like there's limits. But if those limits if they were gone and not only gone, but like people were actively seeking you out to give you this thing, sex, drugs, whatever your vice is, I think that would be like a strength, like that could lead a person very quickly towards like the dark side. Almost in my mind, more so than money. Go ahead, Joe.
so I disagree to a certain extent. I think
Yeah,
with
dude, disagree with everything.
I think with fame, you're you have to watch yourself because you're always watched. I think when you have anonymous wealth, that temptation is definitely it's there. It's going to be there for both, but I think you're more liable to fall to the temptation when you're anonymous, when you have everything at your disposal, but there are no
That's a
social
good point.
consequences to pay
True.
for. When I think of also to turn it a little bit, when I think of fame, I kind of think about high school. Like you have the in crowd, you have like the popular crowd, and then you have like the basically everyone else, and all of that is kind of extrapolated onto just regular life, onto society. You just have it's kind of like it's kind of like having like an adrenaline kick of just being around people and knowing that you're the man or you're the woman and people are looking at you to for validation or some inspiration or whatever it may be. It's that to me that's what fame is. And I mean there's money that plays into it, but I think it's really more just having that kind of influence on people. And that would certainly be nice, but not having anonymity would be a deal breaker. I know for I think all three of us.
Yeah, yeah. With the fame, do you think? And then we can talk about something else. Is like,
No,
but
no,
do you
you
think
let
fame?
Rob also go
Oh
in.
yeah, go.
Yeah.
Do you think fame has changed? Like, do you think the power of fame, like you're talking about, because you're under a microscope, and I
Mm-hmm.
was going to ask, is that always been the case, or is it ever more so because of like the times that we live in, because of social media, because of the internet, where like you could be out at a bar, let's say, going crazy, and in the past, even in, let's say, the 80s, like only if someone saw you, maybe they tabloid could write about you. Like it could come out, maybe a paparazzi took a picture, but it wasn't like there was still a degree of anonymity to an extent. Whereas now it's like everyone has a camera and everyone's a paparazzi. Like if you are super famous and you go to the mall and you pick your nose, like there is a high likelihood that one of the 100 people around you who all have cameras that can take video and photographs have taken your picture, and that picture is now on the internet somewhere. So like, has fame become kind of like golden shackles now more than it was in the past,
Oh
where you
yeah,
could kind of like
absolutely.
do things in the shadows?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, Fame, the advent of this digital era has diluted the attraction of just being famous. I think people desire fame now more for the wealth than for like the just like the applause and like the glory of it. But to your point about Tiger Woods, I think all those Swedish models were there not because they were attracted to Tiger Woods' fame. They were attracted to his bank account. So I think it goes hand in hand. I mean, I'm not saying Tiger Woods is a bad looking dude. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but I am saying all those women waiting around for him, they're doing it more because they know they can be set up and live a life of luxury more than, oh, I'm really he's the best golfer, I like him a lot because he's the best golfer. They don't give a shit about you think all these Swedish models give a shit about golf? They could care fucking less. So it was more about, oh, he's Tiger Woods, he's exorbitantly wealthy, I'm gonna be able to sit on a beach all my rest of my life and do whatever I want and wear the best clothes and have the best cars. And it makes me it sounds like I'm kind of shitting on Swedish models, but I'm not. Big up Sweden because Sweden is actually a cool place. Stockholm is one of my favorite places. But you get my point. It's like I didn't mean it in like that sense. I meant it more that they're they're attracted to his aura not because he's a famous golfer. They could they don't care about the fact that he's a famous golfer. They care more about because he's a famous golfer. He has so much fucking cash. It's mind blowing. So does that make sense? I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
also I think with fame, it's that the people necessarily don't care about what you're famous for. It's that you're famous. Like it's a weird. I don't know. Fame is a weird thing because it's like you've been touched by a celestial being, and people really don't care to. It's like these famous chess players. You see that they're like, their girlfriends are super, like, let's say, beautiful. Do you think that they really care about chess? It's like, yes, it's the money, and I think people just like fame is a form of what's the word I'm thinking of? It's like it gives you credibility in some way. It's like this person couldn't have gotten this fame unless they have some, you know what I mean?
It
It's like a
validates you.
qualifier. It
It
validates
validates. That's
them.
the word you're looking for. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
like you got people who have physics, probably famous physicists have groupies.
Oh
Do you
yeah,
really
no,
think
they
they all
do.
care about physics? It's just like, no, this person's famous, and like it's that they are known, that people might recognize them. Like that has an allure to people, which
Absolutely,
is
absolutely.
it's like famous serial killers. They got no money, but they got people who throw themselves at you, and it's a strange thing. Sorry, Joe, what were you gonna
No,
say?
you just stole my point. Exactly. Because I was gonna go back to the high school thing. How like sometimes cheerleaders or just like the popular girl in school, they are attracted to like the jock or the like the popular person in that school. It's the same thing. It's really money has a lot to play with it, but I also think it's just the intoxication of being with someone who has that kind of um social power that
All
does
right.
something for people. Like being around someone that can make you feel good or make others feel good, that reels people in.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with that a little bit,
Okay.
but I see your point. I think before the smartphones and tablets and computers, you're both of you are exactly right. But I think now that we're in this age where if you do have fame, you're basically you're being taped and photographed at all times of the day. And I think that's has that part of being I'm immediately recognizable has dwindled because now you can't even walk 2 steps down the street without someone saying, "Hey, as a picture, hey, there's a video, let's take a selfie." I think that part of it is starting to it's on the down end. If the I But to your point, in the golden age of Hollywood, we're talking 20s, 30s, 40s. Yeah, you're on the cover of the magazines, you're in the newspaper, you're in the tabloids, you're on the they're doing radio spots about you. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. You're at the premiere of the best movies and stuff like that. That was definitely true. But I think now people don't desire fame as much as they used to in the past. The only reason they want fame is because with fame comes you have some kind of authority, you have power, and you get a lot of money. So they deal with fame, they deal with the recognition. They don't really want it anymore because it's just too much now. Like as Chris said, everyone you you could be at a restaurant and people are videoing you and taking pictures of you and you don't even know it. You're just sitting at a table. You might be with your family or you might be with your significant other or friends, and everyone in the restaurant is just like they're like sneaking pictures of you or videos, even the employees. So I think that part of that appeal is dwindling, and it's people deal with the fame more than they actually desire it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's well, and also it's kind of interesting. We're talking about like when I think fame, I think, but we're all kind of saying is like we're thinking fame like as in a famous celebrity, like a famous actress, a famous musician. And no, I agree. It's like even the go back to like the Will Smith thing, where I heard Jim Carrey kind of reflecting on it, and he said one thing. This is the only point I'm going to make. Is like he was like, I think we need to realize, but we're not the cool kids anymore. And I think that just I'm trying to weave a connecting string to what you're saying, Robert. Is like I think Hollywood and that form of fame that has been like what we identify as famous for a while is starting to dwindle. Where the idea of like being an actor or an actress and like riding that to fame and celebrity, I think we're on the down slope of that. Like I think fame, I don't believe will ever go away. I think human beings, for whatever reason, have many of us, not all, but many, have this desire to be known, and that desire to be known can carry you through a multitude of pathways, but still the end goal is to be known. I want to become a famous physicist and get the Nobel Prize so everyone knows who I am and what I've accomplished, or a philanthropist. Like I think there is a desire in some people to climb that ladder of chaos, like Littlefinger would say, to get to the top and to be celebrated the world over for whatever that thing is. But I do think like this Hollywood idea of fame is on a downward spiral, and I will be very surprised if like our kids like look at I don't even think Hollywood would be a thing. I think that the whole idea of like raising celebrities and actors and like idolizing them, I really think is like almost become old fashioned. Like it's, in my opinion, I think we're hearing the death wails of that world. Sorry, my rant's over.
No, I
Go
think
ahead.
I think I think you're exactly right, man. I think the where once actors, actresses, athletes were put on this pedestal where they were almost demigods and we were in awe of them. Now it's more of you're walking on eggshells everywhere you go, and instead of remember the Michael Jackson concerts in like 1988 where people would faint and cry. It's like, oh, Michael Jackson, they're just at a Michael Jackson concert and they faint. They're crying. Everything. It's not just one or two people. There's hundreds of people fainting and crying. They're carrying them out, and they have to they need oxygen masks and stuff. So it's like that was what it was before. Now, when you're famous, you just have to watch you're looking over your shoulder. Your head's on a swivel at all times. You're always careful. You're tiptoeing everywhere. That's what fame has become now. But the flip side of that coin is when you're famous, you're usually very wealthy and you have a lot of sway and influence. So that's the appeal. I think that's more of the appeal now than just being instantly recognizable. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, as you were saying this, I was thinking that what's interesting is in our time that I don't want to say the everyman, but we're kind of seeing a shift in that. Like, I'm thinking of Theo Vaughn. Like, I was watching one of his podcasts, and like
one of the best comedians. I love Theo Vaughn. He's great.
Great. And like I like to listen to him sometimes because I think he's just a genuine person. Like, he has a lot of problems and he's not afraid to like talk about them. And like you can tell like when he talks, like he's not have a high self-esteem. Like, he's going through shit just like everyone's going through shit. Like, he's an everyman. And I think you're kind of seeing a shift to a degree in that. Like, you got the Joe Rogans, you have the Ari Shapirs, the Joey Diaz's, the Theo Vaughns, like a lot of these people who they're making a living, they're doing well, but like I also think there's a lot of these podcasters that you listen to that you might really like and who create a very good product that are not immensely wealthy. Like, they might live well off what they're working on, but they're not making like $100 million off their program. Some are, like, obviously, but like I just find it interesting that we are, as a society, starting to acquire, and have been for a while, an appetite for authenticity that like that Hollywood, like, for I'm just thinking like
that's a really good point. That's a really
like
good
the
point.
majority of people's entertainment is like is fantasy, right? It's fiction. It's a TV show, a movie, and these are great things, right? But to glorify someone for being able to make believe and like be a different person and act, to me, I think people have, like, because we've been oversaturated with it, we're like, no, I don't care. I want to listen to someone talk who is themselves and like is like me and like has problems and is like free to talk about them and like share themselves. And I think it's kind of an amazing transition period that we're seeing because, yeah, I mean, Theo Vaughn talking about like drug addiction or his sexual problems or not being able to like, issues with intimacy because of he doesn't feel like him and his mom ever had a good relationship. Like, these are real shit. Like, lots of people are dealing with that. And I think it's interesting that those people are becoming famous not because of the illusion they can create that they're cool or are flawless. It's like, no, it's like because of their flaw, because you could get a beer with them and feel like they are connecting with you and are vulnerable. Like, I think I think we're seeing like something has been healed that's kind of been a wrong for a long time. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I think there's an ebb and flow to that, though. I think there's like Rob said before, with the 40s and 50s, 30s, 40s, 50s, with like Hollywood, and then came the tumultuous 60s, and people, they started to turn their gaze away from like movie stars and musicians and back onto the real people, um, normal people in the 60s and 70s. And then there's just a point where people, they need to get a distraction again, and that changes again in the 80s and like 90s. It's just like an ebb and flow to the times that we live in. And obviously now we've been dealing with a decade plus of like nonstop shit, that we're starting to turn away from the frivolous things of Hollywood and somewhat art and music, and starting to pivot towards people who kind of identify with what we do on a day-to-day basis. Now, that's just the way I see how the perception of how people are looking towards the common man is going.
Okay, so we've talked about fame, and we've kind of. I feel like this has been a theme that we end up kind of falling into quite often. But what about? All right, so now we've crossed over. We've thought about the genie has asked us about do we want wealth, and we've pondered it, and now the next option is anonymous power. So, what do you think about that anonymous power, and like how would that be both a massive positive and or a massive negative? And I guess just because this is a flawed question, anonymous power, to have power, you're also going to have to probably have wealth. Um, but yeah, what would it be like to just have all of this power, but to never be known, and nothing you ever do will be known or written down or recorded, for better or worse, whether you are, like Inspector Gadget, like the evil, whoever the villain is, the unseen villain with the cat and the claw.
Claw.
The
It's
claw,
his name.
right?
His name is Claw. Yeah.
So whether you're the claw, this evil mastermind that no one ever knows through the entirety of the show, or you are one of the greatest philanthropists to ever live, but no one will. Your name will not be written on any hospital or a street. No one will know all of the good you've done, yet the good will have been done. So what do you think about anonymous power?
I think anonymous power would suck. That's just me. I feel like if you either if
All right,
you
hold on, but you don't want fame. Like, how you're pretty much telling me you want fame, but you want
no,
like,
no,
come on, how can you
fame is
want both?
the bottom of the totem pole for sure. I would rather have wealth or anonymous wealth. I'm sorry, wealth or anonymous power. But just the idea of anonymous power, it defeats the purpose of having power. Why would I want that? If I had the power to do something for good or bad, just for my own doing, I would want to be known for doing it. That's the whole point of having power, is to show off that you have the power. I
Wait, isn't that pride? What are you
that's
talking about?
no, but that's a part of having power, though. I
Is
can't
it?
think. I think so. I think anyone who's in a position of power, they do it for their own vanity. I can't think of I can't think of one person that has had immense power and has not done it, at least a portion of it, for themselves. Now the
Well, you
negative,
could do it for yourself, but I mean that doesn't mean that anyone knows you're doing it. Sorry, I think I cut you off,
no, no,
Rob.
no, that's a good point. I just still think that anyone who goes into a position of power, they do it so that they can get the recognition. And then
Okay.
on the opposite aspect of that, the benefit of anonymous power is that you don't have any skin in the game. If you want to do something, you don't you're not taking it for credit. You're not putting out that power for credit. So you're more likely to have less of an ulterior motive to doing things. So that's the benefit. I just personally, if I'm gonna have that kind of power, I would want to be known for having that power and for doing something with that power. I feel like
Okay.
you
Yeah,
two
no,
would
no.
disagree.
I disagree. But before that, let's get this in first. Let's not take away Claw's doctoral degree like we did with like when Corvo called him Mr. or Professor Manhattan. It's Dr. Manhattan. It's Dr. Claw.
Dr. Claw,
He
my
has
mistake.
he has his PhD, all right, in evil. So
So am I the
he's-
only one that's never seen any like Pink Panther stuff? I feel like
This is not
No,
Pink Panther.
This is Inspector
It-
Gadget.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
This is like our childhood. I think this was on Nickelodeon. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
It wasn't on
Okay.
Nickelodeon. It's an animated show from the 90s. You never seen it. You don't know who
I've
Inspector
never
Gadget?
seen it. No, I know Inspector Gadget is. I just don't know any of the secondary characters. I don't know anything about that.
what's the girl's name? Chris Penny. Penny was cool.
Is
Penny.
that?
Penny. Yeah, it was. I don't know if he was. I don't. It was like his sidekick. She was
Dude, we
cool.
had good the cartoons of our generation. I still think like
Penny. Yeah.
unbiasedly were the best. Like between like Inspector Gadget, Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold to me is
Oh
still
my god.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Doug. Doug was great. I mean, like, dude, there were some deep episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
No, but to I now I lost my train of thought. To Joe's point. All right, on anonymous power. All right, I'm back. I'm
Yes.
back. So I'm gonna disagree. I like the idea of anonymous power, but maybe it's because, and Chris mentioned him earlier. I like the idea of being the puppet master and pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Like, I ultimately all the decisions lie with me, and I'm impacting and affecting a lot of things, but no one knows who I am.
Okay,
That's I like the, all right, go ahead. Go ahead.
I have a question then. Wouldn't you want to go down in history as being the one that affected those things? Like I could understand living in the now, not wanting to have that kind of scrutiny or having that kind of anonymity, but wouldn't in the future you wouldn't you want to be wouldn't you want to go down in history as having affected that power?
Yeah, but to me, Joe, sorry, one second. I
Go
feel
ahead.
like you want fame more than you're admitting it because that to me is fame. You want to be known for something you've done. Like that's a form of fame, is it not?
It is a form of fame,
Maybe
but
not
Exactly.
in your lifetime, but like your
Exactly. Yeah.
legacy. You're thinking about your legacy, and people who think about their legacy
It's Tywin
care to be
Lannister over here.
remembered.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
but
what he
when it
wants.
comes
No,
to
it's true. He's right.
but I definitely, but when it comes to things with power, I think of things that would affect normal day, everyday life, and I would want to go down as the person that would affect that change. It's not like being famous for being in a movie or being in some play or coming out with some single. That's kind of very tedious stuff when it comes to like macro level things like affecting how someone lives or generations live. I would want to go down in history as the one that actually changed things. That's just me.
Yeah, but that's no. But again, I think that's fame. I mean, that's no different than anyone in ancient Rome who strived and killed and connived their way to be the emperor. Like they wanted power and they wanted a legacy and they wanted history to forever know that they lived in what they had done within the span of their lifetime. I mean, that's fame. I guess it's just in our day and age when we think fame, we think of celebrity. But Joe, I think you deep down kind of like fame.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but I
Oh my
also
god.
I also love how everything Corvo says always comes down to usurping power and war and crusades and battles. He's a gladiator. You want to if Corvo, you want to be in the gladiator arena, don't you? That's what he wants.
Oh man, in another lifetime,
Yeah.
maybe.
Or
You're
like
Napoleon reincarnated,
or
or
like Alexander the Great just
yep.
conquering the fucking Mesopotamia. But so to Joe's point, I think I find the appeal of it, and I think Chris, you're right. I think Joe that it's you can't separate those two. They're not mutually exclusive. What you're suggesting is you want to be famous for doing something. Now it's not something that's maybe irrelevant to some people, or it's artistic or creative. If you want to be known for doing something good or contributing or like doing like
Hmm.
innovating something mathematical, scientific, you want to be known for that, yes? Or like something like political and
Yeah, well,
democracy.
that's
Go ahead.
exactly like my line of thinking is and I guess I see where you guys are coming from, but I separate the two from fame as being more of a artistic kind of thing, something that you do either for art or just you doing you in today's society, which is weird. And then when it comes to affecting power, it's really more political, more social, that kind of arena. Maybe it's just me, but I just separate the two.
Yeah, but
So like, and just like to think with power, I guess in this situation, we're talking about power in that it's not the striving for power, like political office, for example. 'Cause I would agree with you. I think people who strive for political office, it's just, I heard David Mamet call politicians, what do you call them? He called that Hollywood for ugly people. He called what the White House Hollywood for
Holy
ugly people,
shit! You
which is
said
like,
that?
yeah, he did. Like he said it on Joe Rogan the other day.
Wow.
But like that kind of is, yeah, because it's a popularity contest. There's a striving for fame to a degree. I mean, 100%. But I guess in this case, when I think of anonymous power, it's the type of power that drives behind the scenes. Like what it so like Joe, let's say you had the power to cure world hunger, but you would never be known for it. Like you did it. Like whatever it was, the strike of your pen created this chain reaction of positivity, but like no one would ever know about it. With that kind of power, would you want that? But and no one's gonna know about it. Like you don't get any, you're not gonna get any um what's the word I'm thinking of? Not you're gonna get benefit. Let's say this anonymous power, you could get benefit from it, but it's an anonymous benefit. You're not gonna be able to, you know, enjoy the accolades that people will give you because of what you've done. It's like it will happen. You'll have the force to. You're the hand of God. You can change things, but you will never be known for it.
Over the other three items, yes, I would choose that in a heartbeat. It's just I don't know. Like I'm thinking of the guy who I'm not sure if it was polio or one of those diseases, but Salk, the guy who like created the vaccine for
Mhm.
polio. I mean,
Uh huh.
most people don't know
Keep
that.
going.
Like I just pulled that out of my ass right now, and I didn't even look it up. But it's just something that I feel like if you create something that benefits the world generations over, I think you should have some kind of recognition. But yeah, if I had to choose that over the other three items that we were talking about, I would choose anonymous power in that particular situation.
I think people who want anonymous power are probably some of the scarier people in the world.
It's a great point. I was just gonna say that.
Because yeah, because think about it, because I think you're right, Joe. Like where your mind went was, I think the that's where 90% of people are going to go. It's like power, fame, wealth are all kind of combined. It's like one might be a vehicle to get to the other, to get to the other, to get to the other. But the people who have immense power and have no desire to be known by anyone, those are the people you have to be very
Yes.
frightened by, because like they don't care about being known. And it's like, all right, so what motivates you? Because for most people, I think motivating is like, I think everyone, it's a popularity everyone wants to be celebrated for who they are and what they've accomplished. I think that's like a very human quality. But if someone doesn't have that quality and they have immense power, they're kind of someone that you got to be a little frightened by, I think.
Oh,
Because they could do great things, or they could be the person subtly undermining the whole course of like history.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, welcome to the X Files, the cigarette smoking man. That's who he is. No one knows. No, you never even find out his name. You have no idea who this man is, but he's just there in the background, controlling everything. That's exactly who you just described, Chris. And that's the person you honestly, he might be the scariest person. It's a good point. So you gotta be. I would always be cautious of someone because to do like a human psychological thing and human nature thing, everyone wants to be recognized for achievements and other good deeds that they've done. Right? No one wants to be recognized for bad things that they've done. They want to avoid that because you get criticized and you get slated and there's scrutiny and et cetera, et cetera. But you have to always be cautious of someone that does really good things but doesn't want any recognition for it. That's a good point. And those are the people that, I'm not saying obviously there are exceptions, but generally speaking, it goes against human nature.
Yeah, and usually they're driven by something, and you hope that it's a
There's
positive
an angle.
thing, but
Yeah.
it could very easily be a negative thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking, like, I was watching the the TV show Dope Sick. Did either of you guys watch
Oh yeah,
that?
Keats, he's back, baby.
Keith.
Mike Keaton, man.
Yeah.
Keeps on going, man.
Oh,
But
shit.
it's like, I mean, it's like, here are people who they would love to have never been known. I mean, that family, I mean, they hid behind all kinds of they were known to a degree and known within certain circles, but I mean, they didn't necessarily want to be known. They were kind of behind the scenes doing all kinds of crazy shit. And those are the people that frighten me. What I was going to ask you guys is, like, so let's say you had anonymous power. Do you know, like, what is one thing that you would like to change?
Oof. God damn it. Well, I'll let you go, Rob.
That's a hard question.
That is.
I would.
That might be the hardest question you've ever posed.
I would eliminate social media in any way, shape, or form. And I would also eliminate Major League Baseball and NFL football. And I would make the only sports ice hockey, proper football, and Formula One racing. That's it. I would eliminate every other sport. But on a serious note, I would erase every type of. Twitter is gone, Instagram gone, Facebook gone, all of it gone.
Wait. Okay, hold on.
We're not even getting into the other ones that I don't even know about, like Snapchat, TikTok, whatever, TikTok, tactic, whatever the fuck it's called, gone. Just get it out.
So then
all of it gone.
I'm gonna post this question to you then.
Yeah.
Would you do a Thanos where you would instantly get rid of it, but people remember what they had, or would you actually instantly get rid of it, but people forgot what it was?
That's a good question. No, I want people to know it was taken away from them.
Holy shit!
So,
you can start World War III.
The latter. Yeah, that's what I want.
He wants you to feel the loss.
Exactly. I want them to know that it's gone. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh shit!
Joe, that would be hilarious if someone had made that like a YouTube clip, and it's like the Thanos, and he does like the snap, and it's just like all of a sudden, like everyone's like Twitter just got deleted, Instagram gone.
Too bad you lost all your photos. Go fuck yourself. It's gone,
Joe. And it's like that scene. He's like, and then I will rest and look upon a grateful universe.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my god!
I don't get any of those references because I don't watch.
I was surprised you even knew what he was talking about. To be honest with you, I was
know
say,
who
Joe,
Thanos is.
You don't want to watch
It's
this.
purple Josh Brolin. Am I wrong? I know.
You're correct.
I
You're
know
right.
who Thanos is,
You're right.
but I couldn't tell you a line from Avengers. Fuck off.
Yeah, but do you know like what he means by like the snap?
No, not at all.
You just use your context clues. You're like, all right, he did the villain.
Yeah.
He took away something. All right, yeah.
I know he's like a celestial being, and he's giant digital purple Josh Brolin. That's all I know. That's all I know.
To just sidetrack for just 20 seconds, I know you would hate the movie version, but you would love the comic version. It's like all into like psychology, and it has a lot of like spatial stuff that goes into it. I think you would love. I can barely like talk right now. I'm fucking crying. But you would love the comic book. I think it's Infinity Quest. That's the name of it.
I have no idea. This
Yeah.
is an Andrew question.
No, but just
Pick up
hearing
Andrew
that, hearing,
but go ahead.
hearing that you would take it away from him, but still leave that memory behind.
I want the hurt. I want the pain. Yeah.
Oh my god. That's pure evil.
It's the only way you're gonna learn the lesson.
I think you're kind of right.
No, they're
though. It's
not.
Like,
You're
otherwise, history would just end up maybe in the same.
yes,
position.
and that will. I think it would happen irregardless. You give humankind way too much credit.
Okay, that's a good one. Social media. See, I don't know. I go back and forth with
Oh
social
my
media
God.
because, like, we've talked about social media endlessly, and I do.
We can
think
beat back and
from-
forth.
I think
It's
going,
like
I
a
think
running
some-
gag in like a sitcom.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Okay, let's say like social media. Maybe yes.
Oh my God.
Definitely to a degree. think what I think I would get rid of, because this goes me and my anarchist kind of mindset. I think a lot of government stuff I would probably like eliminate. Like if I could do like
Oh, what a
Thanos
shocker
snap,
that is.
I would just be like, boom, boom.
Give me one specific
I'm
example.
I'm trying to think of an example. I just think about like I feel this is like my personal opinion. I feel like government has really overextended its control on like human life, and to me, I can't even give you a particular example. I mean, I don't want to go back into COVID, but it's like the fact that like the way we've set up our system or the way the system has ended up is that it's very easy to like to literally lock down people and to control them and to manipulate them. Like I think these are the things I think I would get rid of. If I could do a Thanos snap, mainstream media gone. It's just literally gone. I don't care
I could support
what
that.
side of the political spectrum you are.
That's a
you're
good
just
shout,
gone.
yeah.
Like I think that stuff is just like poison. Like when I was watching Dope Sick, it's just like how much they paid off like government officials, they paid off media, like all that stuff is so convoluted and so easily distorted and manipulated. It's like with the Hunter Biden stuff and how like the media is kind of like you're told. I think a lot of these media they're told what to do to a degree, what to say and what not to say. I saw a statistic from somewhere was that I was listening to someone on Joe Rogan how like big pharma how it pays for like 75% of all ad time is like pharmaceutical companies. Like a lot of these like massively embedded systems like big pharma, they're the people they have kind of placed in government, all of these people in positions of immense power, not due to like not due to their uh genius or their brilliance, just due to the fact that they were able to like climb a ladder and weasel their way into these positions of power, and how when they get there they can make friends, make deals, and at the end of the day like the people at the bottom get fucked. Like I think about when the war like with Ukraine and Russia, dude, at the end of the day, it's always the people at the bottom that get fucked. Putin ain't gonna get fucked. It's gonna be Ukrainians, which are already getting fucked, but it's also gonna be like sanctions on Russia that affects like all these poor Russians, like the people who really don't have a horse in the race, a dog in the fight. Like they're the ones that get fucked, and I think it's like these people that are immensely powerful. They're in government. They're these massive corporate entities. I would love to just like Thanos snap a lot of them, just be like, fuck. And not even like eliminate them, like literally make them like impoverished so that they have to live in like Skid Row and like human filth.
Oh God.
And just like
I love
pay a debt to like just pay a debt a little bit. Like with the whole Dope Sick thing, it's like crazy. None of them went to jail. In the most part, their money's hidden. Like they will get away with like we're still living in the opiate crisis. Like all of the homeless in California, that's still the opiate crisis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we can draw a long line back to like the 80s or like late 80s, 90s when Oxycontin like went out, and all of the dirty dealings that essentially got a whole country hooked on opiates. Like we're still seeing that, and the people at the top are not going to get punished for that. So yeah, I would love to like I'm going to answer this question now. You already know my answer. I think I would love fame. Would be interesting. I've had my conversations about fame in my own head. Like I think I would love it, but I also know like what Rob would say, like that I think would lead me to hell. Like I think certain temptations would just be like,
wait, fame would?
Yeah, like
Wow.
fame. If I had
Absolutely.
immense fame, I think the darker side of myself would take over, just because there would be nothing to restrict it. Like, yeah, I mean, how many really famous people, especially famous single people, like you go look at their lives, like there's a lot of debauchery in it, and like, hey, if that's
and
your
it's
thing,
so
if your thing-
accessible and it's thrown at you too.
Yeah, it's just like
It's easy.
You might not have started down that path, but like it's just so easy. Like it's so easy. Like drugs, alcohol, like these things don't. women. Just like imagine like literally going back to
Or
your
men,
apartment,
whatever you like.
or men,
Yeah.
whatever your thing is,
whatever your thing
and
is.
having
Yeah.
no natural check on like your libido, and just like how much that could fuck you up. Like
It's true.
that, like it fucks people up. We have enough examples in history of when that was allowed to just like run its course, and from a lot of people, they lack the willpower and the restraint to put that into make that just one small fraction of their life. It very quickly takes on a life of its own. I think anonymous power is what I would pick. I would love to be like the Count of Monte Cristo and just like become the hand of God and just start to like fuck shit up. Like seriously, like if it was just like if no one knew who you were or what, and just be like, all right, I can right so many wrongs. Like I was thinking about like imagine if you had like 6 billion. Like in my mind, it's like anonymous power, money. They got to go hand in hand because how do you have power without wealth? But like people live their lives with like $50,000 debt, and that will be a weight on their shoulders their whole life. $50,000, like there are people in this world that have $200 billion. Like imagine what you could do. You could literally change people's life like with pocket change. You could it's just the amount of like what you could do for good or evil would be beautiful. And I wouldn't even care. Like I don't care if you know who I am, because I would know what I did. Like I would know. And just to have that kind of power would be, I think it would be scary. But I think that's the one I would choose. I think that would be the most interesting for me, at least.
Nice.
Sorry, I've been thinking about this a lot.
No.
Count of Monte Cristo, hand of God,
No.
and just start fucking people up, man.
You know who you know who you're gonna be. This is who he would be. Really, let's tell the audience this. He's gonna be Hugo Weaving. He's gonna be V for Vendetta. That's who he wants to be. That's who you really want to be. He wants to topple the oppressive government and save Natalie Portman. That's what you want to. That's what you want to do.
There you go.
That's what he wants.
No, but yeah, dude, I think it's just like I think it'd be.
But
so
in the shadow, it's like no one knows who you are. Exactly.
Yeah, because it's just like you could see people like just we've been around people. I mean, like you've come across people who the scales are stacked against them, but literally the weight is like not a lot of weight. It shouldn't be a lot of weight, but it is. Like people live with like $50,000, $20,000 of debt that will be something on their mind for their whole life. In some cases, 30. You know what I mean? And it's like that's pennies to some people, and like you could just so easily, literally, so with one check, with a phone call, could just go through life and just like literally be an agent of God, for lack of a better word, an angel, a messenger, like just like, yep, I'm gonna solve that one. You who are wrongfully accused and are in jail for the rest of your life, nope, that's gonna get. I'm gonna fix that problem. I'm gonna fix that problem. I'm gonna fix that problem. Rather than relying on daddy government to solve these problems, you could just do them yourself. Anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so before Joe, I'll give my answer. I can't do fame because there's no privacy whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. So that's immediately out. And then wealth, for me personally, I'm not speaking for anyone else, but for me, wealth would lead. I think I would make too many poor decisions, and I would be tempted to do too many other things. So that's out. I just don't want that. And so I would also agree with Chris. I would go shadow, like anonymous power, because I can still accomplish the things I want to accomplish and not have to deal with the digital world or the other bullshit that comes along with being known, quote unquote. So I'm gonna go anonymous power as well. Joe?
We're going 3 for 3. I'm going anonymous power too. I think the other one just sucked too much ass. I can't do it. I can't.
And what we kind of skipped over
wisdom.
We
I would still skip that. Personally,
wisdom,
myself.
knowledge.
Because if you have wisdom but can't apply it to anyone or anything, what's the point?
Yeah, that's true. But what if it's Yoda wisdom?
Fuck Yoda.
Yeah, true. I'm not a Star Wars guy. Star Trek all the way. Fuck Star Wars. I agree. Uh, Indiana Jones was better. George Lucas. Indiana Jones is better than Star Wars. You heard it here first. Fuck Star Wars.
Ditto.
No, but if it's like Yoda type wisdom where I can like you mentor people and change things that
Mhm.
make me a little bit better. But if it's just wisdom with nothing else, that's kind of lame. Yeah.
There's we'll wrap up in a few minutes, but there's a book by you guys. Are you guys familiar with Hermann Hesse?
Nope.
Not familiar.
He was like I think a German or an Austrian author. I forget which, but he wrote a book called Siddhartha, and it was like his interpretation of like the story of Buddha. And this will make sense in a second. So at the end, there's a point where like the main character, who in this case is Siddhartha, who's going through this, leaves fortune, leaves wealth, leaves power to seek enlightenment, right? And he goes through the world, and he goes to this teacher, and he's with these ascetics who, meditate for long periods of time in the rain, and they don't eat. They eat maybe a kernel or two of rice a day. Like these people who just waste away and in a process of trying to achieve enlightenment and escape from the cycle of reincarnation. And he's with them for a while, and then eventually he leaves because he's like, "This is why are we doing this? We're killing ourselves." And then he goes in this book. He ends up befriending a courtesan and learns the wisdom of love and the sexual arts. And he's with her for a long period of time, and then eventually he leaves because he kind of, in the stories, that each of these things runs its course, and it doesn't end where he thinks it will end, right? And he's like, okay, this has worked its way through my system, and now I thought you were the answer, and now I know that I haven't found it, and I need to continue. And at the end of the book, he ends up at a river crossing, and he needs to. There's a person. There's like a shack, a cabin where someone is paid to take passengers from one side of this river to the other side. And as he interacts with this boatman, he sees that the boatman has achieved this sense of calm and peace, and it draws him in, and he ends up staying and kind of befriending this boatman, and ends up finding in the boatman the teacher he had always been seeking. And the boatman, he asked him, like, where did you learn this way, this quality that I've been striving for and I see in you? And he tells him that he had learned it from the river, from day in and day out, just crossing the river and learning from the teacher that was the closest to him. And I think in that is the answer to the wisdom question of maybe there is a victory in wisdom and enlightenment in and of itself. It's like an inner achievement that might be worthwhile. All these things that the genie has asked or offered, right? We've kind of given enough. We've given a variety of reasons of the where these paths end, and in many cases, they can end in hell, right? All the wealth in the world, we're talking about vices and things that this could drive us to the brink. All power could drive us to the brink. Anonymous power drive us to the brink. Fame. Yet you got to wonder, maybe in all of it, the simple pleasure of wisdom and contentedness and enlightenment might be the thing we should be striving for all along. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. I haven't read that book in a long time.
That was pretty well said. I actually know what Siddhartha is. I didn't know the name of the author though. That's good. I like that. You know that.
You would like that book, I think, a lot, Robert.
Should, yeah. So there were classes in high school. I didn't take them, unfortunately, but I remember kids carrying around that book. But to your point, the main point I want to say is wisdom is good because if you put wisdom into practice, you can get wealth, fame, and power. And maybe ultimately, like, to round this up, maybe wisdom is the best quality to have because it's an actual like innate quality and something, and at the same time something you can learn, you can educate yourself. It can be very it's almost an academic aura that you have, and you can acquire wealth using wisdom, you can get fame using wisdom, you can gain power using wisdom. And it's also like you said in the beginning, it's like a web. All these things are actually entangled together all at the same time. So wisdom, don't sleep on wisdom is what I'm saying this. But if I had to pick something out of, if I had to choose something, gun to your head, I'm going anonymous power. But wisdom is a close second.
All right, Joe, what are your final thoughts as we wind this episode?
No, this is great, and I also see how Rob absolutely hates social media.
It's disgusting. I mean, we don't have time. I can go on a 30-minute rant right now, but I'm gonna clip it. I'm gonna clip it right now.
Oh my god!
It's a facade. It's just people pretending to be. It's like Avatar. You're pretending to be something you're not.
Yeah.
And you're pretending to care about issues that you don't actually care about for the purpose of looking progressive and cool and garden. I want to be showered by likes and comments, and that's the quickest way I can describe it. But let's move on. Go back, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, my takeaway. This is just this was a great conversation about these things that I don't think too much about, but yeah, this social media, this Thanos snap was hilarious.
Yeah, who wants to see some fucking rich asshole on that boat getting 7 million likes? Fuck you. Let's just get away. Let's just be done with that, and I think people would be in a better mood, and we would interact with each other better. But anyway, I keep cutting you. I'm sorry.
No, I made my point. You can go ahead.
Well, guys, hey,
Yeah,
I appreciate you always coming and having these conversations because, hey, and I appreciate anyone who is listening. I appreciate you. I hope you're doing well, and I hope that you tune in for the next conversation.